has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and to eat out their substance. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, destruction, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy in the head of a civilized nation. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full right to levy war, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. No one cheered. It was more like a moment to say, Amen, but no one knew quite what to do. Then Pa began to sing. All at once, everyone was singing. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Long may our land be bright, with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, great God our King. The crowd was scattering away then, but Laura stood stock still. Suddenly, she had a completely new thought. The declaration and the song came together in her mind, and she thought, God is America's king. She thought, Americans won't obey any king on earth. Americans are free. That means they have to obey their own consciousness. No king bosses Pa. He has to boss himself. Why, she thought, when I am a little older, Pa and Ma will stop telling me what to do, and there isn't anyone else who has a right to give me orders. I will have to make myself be good. Her whole mind seemed to be lighted up by that thought. This is what it means to be free. It means you have to be good. Our Father's God, author of liberty. The laws of nature and of nature's God endow you with a right to life and liberty. Then you have to keep the laws of God, for God's law is the only thing that gives you a right to be free. Laura had no time then to think any further. Carrie was wondering why she stood so still, and Pa was saying, "This way, girls, there's the free lemonade." The barrel stood in the grass by the flagpole. A few men were waiting for their turns to drink from the tin dipper. As each finished drinking, he handed the dipper on and then strolled away toward the horses and buggies by the racetrack. Laura and Carrie hung back a little, but the man who had the dipper saw them and handed the dipper to Pa. He filled it from the barrel and gave it to Carrie. The barrel was almost full, and slices of lemon floated thick on the lemonade. "I see they put in plenty of lemons, so it ought to be good," Pa said, while Carrie slowly drank. Her eyes grew round with delight. She had never tasted lemonade before. "They've just mixed it," one of the waiting men told Pa. "The water's fresh from the hotel well, so it's cold." Another man who was waiting said, "It depends, some, on how much sugar they put in." Pa filled the dipper again and gave it to Laura. She had once tasted lemonade at Nellie Olison's party when she was a little girl in Minnesota. This lemonade was even more delicious. She drank the last drop from the dipper and thanked Pa. It would not be polite to ask for more. When Pa had drunk, they went across the trampled grass to the crowd by the racetrack. A great ring of sod had been broken and the sod carried off. The breaking plow with its coulter had left the black earth smooth and level. In the middle of the ring and all around it, the prairie grasses were waving, except where men and buggies had made trampled tracks. "Why, hello, Boast," Pa called, and Mr. Boast came through the crowd. He had just got to town in time for the races. Mrs. Boast, like Ma, had preferred to stay at home. 4 ponies came out on the track. There were 2 bay ponies, 1 gray and 1 black. The boys who were riding them lined them up in a straight row. "Which should you bet on if you were betting?" Mr. Boast asked. "Oh, the black one," Laura cried. The black pony's coat shone in the sunlight, and its long mane and tail blew silky on the breeze. It tossed its slender head and picked up its feet daintily. At the word "go," all the ponies leaped into a run. The crowd yelled, stretching out low and fast. The black pony went by, the others behind it. All their pounding feet raised a cloud of dust that hid them. Then, around the far side of the track they went, running with all their might. The gray pony crept up beside the black. Neck and neck they were running. Then the gray pulled a little ahead, and the crowd yelled again. Laura still hoped for the black. It was doing its best. Little by little it gained on the gray. Its head passed the gray's neck. Its outstretched nose was almost even with the gray's nose. Suddenly, all 4 ponies were coming head-on down the track, quickly growing larger and larger in front of the oncoming dust. The bay pony with the white nose came skimming past the black and the gray, across the line ahead of them both, while the crowd cheered. "If you'd bet on the black, Laura, you'd have lost," said Pa. "She's the prettiest, though," Laura answered. She had never been so excited. Carrie's eyes shone. Her cheeks were pink with excitement. Her braid was snared on a button, and recklessly she yanked it loose. "Are there any more, Pa? More races?" Carrie cried. "Sure, here they come for a buggy race," Pa answered. Mr. Boast joked. "Pick the winning team, Laura." Through the crowd and out onto the track came first a bay team hitched to a light buggy. The bays were perfectly matched, and they stepped as though the buggy weighed nothing at all. Then came other teams, other buggies. But Laura hardly saw them, for there was a team of brown horses that she knew. She knew their proud, gay heads and arching necks, the shine of light on their satiny shoulders, the black manes blowing and the forelocks tossing above their quick, bright, gentle eyes. "Oh, look, Carrie, look! It's the Brown Morgans," she cried. "That's Almanzo Wilder's team, Boast," said Pa. "What in creation has he got him hitched to?" High up above the horses, Almanzo Wilder was sitting. His hat was pushed back on his head, and he looked cheerful and confident. He turned the team toward its place in line, and they saw that he was sitting on a high seat, on top of a long, high, heavy wagon with a door in its side. "It's his brother Royal's peddler wagon," said a man standing nearby. "He don't have a chance with that weight against all those light buggies," said another. Everyone was looking at the Morgans and at the wagon and talking about them. "The off-horse, Prince, it's the one he drove last winter, that 40-mile trip that he and Cap Garland made and brought in the wheat that kept us all from starving to death," Pa told Mr. Boast. "The other one's Lady that ran off with the antelope herd that time. They've both got good action and speed." "I see that," Mr. Boast agreed. "But no team can haul that heavy cart and beat Sam Olson's bays on his light buggy. Seems like the young fellow might have rousted out a buggy somewheres in this country." "He's an independent kind of a young cuss," someone said. "He'd rather lose with what he's got than win with a borrowed buggy." "Too bad he don't own a buggy," Mr. Boast said. The brown horses were by far the most beautiful on the track, and so proud. They did not seem to mind their heavy wagon at all, but tossed their heads, pricked their ears, and lifted their feet as if the ground were not quite good enough for them to step on. "Oh, what a shame they haven't a fair chance," Laura was thinking. Her hands were clenched. She wished so much that those proud, fine horses might only have a fair chance. Hitched to that heavy wagon, they could not win. She cried out, "Oh, it isn't fair!" The race started. Fast came the bays, leading all the others. The shining legs trotted, and the wheels whirling hardly seemed to touch the ground. Every buggy rushing by was a light one-seated buggy. Not a team drew even the weight of a two-seated buggy, except the beautiful brown horses who came last, pulling the high, heavy peddler's cart. "Best team in the country," Laura heard a man say, "but not a chance." Nope, said another. That wagon's too heavy for them to pull. Sure as shootin' they'll break their trot. But they were pulling it, and they were trotting. Evenly, without a break, the 8 brown legs kept moving in a perfect trot. The dust cloud rose up and hid them. Then, bursting out of it, up the other side of the track, the teams and buggies were speeding. 2 buggies were behind the peddler's cart. 3 buggies were behind it. Only the bays were ahead of it. Oh, come on, win! Laura was begging the brown horses. She so wanted them to trot faster that it seemed her wishing was pulling them. They were almost around the track. They were coming now around the turn and on toward the line. The bays were ahead. The Morgans could not do it. They could not win. The weight was too much for them. But Laura still kept on wishing with all of her. Faster, only a little faster. Oh, come on. Almanzo leaned forward from the high seat and seemed to speak to them. Still, smoothly trotting, they came faster. Their heads reached Mr. Owen's buggy and smoothly crept by it. All the legs were moving fast, while so slowly the brown heads came up, even with the bays. All 4 horses were coming now in a line, faster. A tie, by gosh, it's a tie, a man said. Then Mr. Owen's buggy whip flashed out. It swished down once, twice as he shouted. The bays leaped ahead. Almanzo had no whip. He was leaning forward, tightly holding the reins firm. Once more he seemed to speak. Fast and smooth as swallows flying, the brown Morgans passed the bays and crossed the line. They'd won. The whole crowd shouted. It surged to surround the brown horses and Almanzo high on the cart. Laura found that she had been holding her breath. Her knees were wobbly. She wanted to yell and to laugh and to cry and to sit down and rest. Oh, they won! Carrie kept saying, clapping her hands. Laura did not say anything. He earned that $5, said Mr. Boast. What $5? Carrie asked. Some men in town put up $5 for the best trotting team, Pa explained. Almanzo Wilders won it. Laura was glad she had not known. She could not have borne it if she had known that the brown horses were running for a $5 prize. He has it coming to him, said Pa. That young man knows how to handle horses. There were no more races. There was nothing more to do but stand around and listen to the talking. The lemonade was low in the barrel. Mr. Boast brought Laura and Carrie a dipperful and they divided it. It was sweeter than before, but not so cold. The teams and buggies were going away. Then Pa came from the dwindling crowd and said it was time to go home. Mr. Boast walked with them along Main Street. Pa said to him that the Wilders had a sister who was a school teacher back east in Minnesota. She's taken a claim half a mile west of town here, said Pa, and she wants Almanzo to find out if she can get this school to teach next winter. I told him to tell her to send in her application to the school board. Other things being equal, I don't know why she can't as well have it. Laura and Carrie looked at each other. Pa was on the school board, and no doubt the others would feel as he did. Laura thought, maybe if I am a very good scholar, and if she likes me, maybe she might take me driving behind those beautiful horses.